running backs might be the most important position in all of fantasy football, and that's why today we will be covering 5 running backs that you absolutely must draft if you want to win your fantasy league. Now, up first, we have a guy who everybody is quick to dismiss because he's reached his age 30 season, but I'm here to tell you that he's only going to be better this year than he was last year, and that is Derrick Henry, who is now a Baltimore Raven. Last year, Derrick Henry had a 54% snap share count. He was getting a lot of carries and opportunities taken away by Tyjae Spears. You're not going to see that happen in Baltimore because Keaton Mitchell is injured, and nobody else is going to take that volume away from him. Definitely not Justice Hill. Despite having that 54% snap share last year, he was number 2 in rushing yards, number 2 in breakaway runs, number 10 in yards created, and number 1 in carries per game last season. And he did all of this on only the 22nd most red zone touches. That number will also rise this year because Baltimore is a far better team than the Titans were. Now, to put this into perspective on the team that he's going to, Derrick Henry is going to the Ravens, who ran the ball 52% of the time last season and allowed Gus Edwards to have 13 touchdowns. That is ridiculous for a guy who seemingly did nothing else. Now, this is because Lamar only ran the ball 5 times within the 5-yard line. And if Derrick Henry is getting all of those carries, I imagine he is going to see some kind of influx of volume, especially around the goal line, and Lamar is going to be used even less. Now, to also put this into perspective, Henry was top 10 in 4 of the last 5 seasons in fantasy. He was still the RB21 in the season that he only played 8 games, by the way. And he's going around the same time as Josh Jacobs. Now, I don't really understand how all of these things add up and people are so quick to dismiss Derrick Henry. He's posted some workouts recently. He still looks like he's in phenomenal shape and he still looks like he's working hard. I have no reason to doubt that he's still going to be successful, especially in a Ravens offense that primarily likes to run the ball. I wouldn't give up on him, and actually, you know what? This is one of my favorite running backs this year to draft. Now, up next, we have Isaiah Pacheco, and this is a guy that I think is only going to be better this season, and he was already pretty good last season, but there are a couple of reasons for this. First, the Chiefs added no running back competition. He is looking to lead that backfield, and I don't see Clyde Edwards-Helaire taking too many opportunities away from him. He averaged over 18 opportunities per game. That's a 72% opportunity share, ranked number 8th in the NFL for running backs. He had a 61% snap share, which was ranked 31st, and 50 red zone touches, ranked 7th. He was number 11 in breakaway run rate and number 12 in yards created. His receptions also significantly rose last season from 13 to 39, and the Chiefs added some explosive wide receivers that should allow the run game to open because they won't be so heavily stacked in the box, trying to protect the run. And I think that the Chiefs not adding a running back this offseason or during the draft just shows how much confidence Pacheco really has from his coaching staff. You know, this is a guy where week 12 to 17, he was outside of RB10 once. And it was RB28, he scored 10 points, but every other week he was at least RB8 or better, and more often than not, he was RB, 4 or better. So he's only looking to gain more production here, and when you look at how he did in the playoffs, he really showed his teammates, his coaches, that he can be trusted in these big moments, and I feel as though Andy Reid is going to rely on him a lot more than what we expect this year, and I'm all for it. Where he's going at right now, I'm all for drafting him. I have multiple shares of Isaiah Pacheco, and I really think you guys should too. And up next, we have Jaylen Warren. Now, if you guys watched my most recent video before this one, you'll have seen that I am absolutely taking no shares of Najee Harris. I want nothing to do with him, but that is not the case with his counterpart, Jaylen Warren, and I'll explain why. He was number 35 in snap share with 49%, number 40 in opportunity share with 43%. Despite this, he was number 5 in targets, number 5 in receptions, number 6 in true yards per carry, number 7 in yards per touch, number 1 in juke rate. He had the number 3 breakaway run rate. He was number 5 in evaded tackles, number 7 in yards created, and number 3 in yards created per touch. Now, along with this, the Steelers have declined Najee's fifth-year option, and Warren was just better with less opportunities. Najee did have some explosiveness toward the end of the season where he was kind of getting back into form, but the Steelers still declined his fifth-year option. Now, to me, this means that Warren is probably going to be the 1A to Najee's 1B with the opportunity for his role to grow throughout the season because Najee is no longer going to be there. And Arthur Smith, despite what everybody thinks and what everybody saw last year from him in Atlanta where he completely fumbled Bijan Robinson, he actually led Derrick Henry's successful seasons in Tennessee where he was going crazy, going for 2,000 yards. And that's not something that you're going to forget. He might not have been a great head coach, but he really is a good offensive coordinator for the run, and it's going to show. I think that Jaylen Warren, with a couple more opportunities, if he receives a little more than 49% in snap share and 43% in opportunity share, I believe he's only going to get better. I think he has the catching ability and the rushing ability this year to really be a high-end RB2, potentially an RB1, because the Steelers buffed up their offensive line as well. And I'm not avoiding him at any cost with how the rate that he's going, like way, way late. I'm talking like 10th round, 9th round. I'm getting every single share of Jaylen Warren. Now, up next, we have a guy who I really think is about to rise up on a lot of people's draft boards, and that is Zamir White. Now, Zamir White had a very small sample size last year because Josh Jacobs was the primary running back last season up until after week 13 when Zamir White took over. In the 4 games that Zamir White started, he averaged over 114 total yards per game and 23 touches per game. That was good enough for 15 fantasy points per game, and he was around RB 13 at that time. He was on pace for 250 to 300 touches throughout the entire season. And along with this, the Raiders really added no competition for this upcoming season. They added Madison, but Madison's already been described as a depth piece. And they added a running back out of New Hampshire that is known as a pass-catching back. He might get some touches, but I don't see him taking the primary load away from Zamir White at all. And if anybody saw that absolutely juiced up picture from just this morning on Instagram, Zamir White has been in the gym and he is cooking in there. He looks so much bigger, so much stronger, and he's already been described by his coaches as having that, real top speed that you look for in a running back while also being super strong. I think that the Raiders were a middle of the pack kind of offensive line last year, and I think that he can really be successful behind that offensive line. This is a team that gave Jacobs 270 touches in 13 games last year. He was averaging over 20, and again, Pierce wants to give his running back 20 touches a game. He believes heavily in focusing on running the ball and stopping the run, and I have no doubt that when it comes down to it, Zamir White is going to get the bulk of those touches, even if he's inefficient with them like Rachaad White was last year. I think that the bulk of the touches would allow him to be a high-end RB2, perhaps a low-end RB1 if it all comes down to it because of those opportunities. And last but not least, we have a guy that I think everybody should be considering to draft. He's going at the end of the first round / start of the second round, and that is Jamir Gibbs. Now, Jamir Gibbs last season only had a 58% snap share and a 51% opportunity share. Despite all of this and sharing the backfield with David Montgomery, he was number 8 in fantasy points per opportunity, number 8 in fantasy points per game, number 8 in targets, number 9 in receptions. He was number 7 in true yards per carry, number 8 in yards per touch, number 2 in breakaway run rate, and number 3 in breakaway runs. This is crazy, guys. These are the stats that you want to see when it comes to running backs being successful. This is a guy that's turning his plays into huge gains, huge opportunities, and for somebody that only got 58% of the snap share, averaging the 8th most fantasy points per game, and that is with Zamir Gibbs being used probably little to none at the start of the season, where people were really, really mad about it. I think that he kind of takes over that 1A position from David Montgomery, not necessarily getting all of the early down carries, but I think this is a guy that's going to see a lot more opportunities to shine. And, last year he faced an average of 7.1 defenders in the box. That was good enough for 10th, and he was still able to do all of this, still able to be successful. He's going to have a lot more opportunities. Detroit is scheduled, ranked to have the second best offense in the entire NFL, and I don't doubt it. I think he's only going to get better this season. There were some concerns last year with how he was going to do, and I think that's why they eased him into it. I think that there's no question marks anymore. Zamir Gibbs is a full go, and I think he warrants his early second round, late first round draft position, and I have no problem taking him at that spot. And that's going to do it for me, guys. If you guys like this video, or you want to see more videos like it, such as, say, a wide receiver, quarterback video, make sure you guys like the video, comment which ones you want to see, subscribe if you're new here, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.